Hello, I'm Jane Fuller, a columnist with Accounting and Business, and I'm about to interview Pauline Wallace, the new chair of a post-Brexit body that's in the process of being set up. It's the UK Endorsement Board for International Financial Reporting Standards. Post-Brexit, UK-listed companies will need to use IFRS as adopted by the UK rather than as adopted by the EU. A body will be needed to endorse the standards, hence the UKEB, which will be accountable to the Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy and operate as a ring-fence unit within the Financial Reporting Council. Now, I'm delighted to welcome Pauline Wallace, a former partner at PwC with a background in technical accounting, standard setting and public policy. So Pauline is newly appointed as the chair of the UKEB, and the obvious question to start with, Pauline, is what is the role and purpose of the UKEB?
Well, thanks very much, Jane, for letting me talk to you today. I guess we will have two statutory functions once we're up and running. The first will be to endorse IFRS for use in the UK, and the second is to lead the UK input into the international standard setting process. So essentially that's going to be influencing and thought leadership.
As I mentioned in the introduction, the UKEB will be accountable to the Secretary of State for at BEIS. Will that make it vulnerable to political pressure?
No, I don't think it will. We have four guiding principles, one of which is accountability, and a second is independence. And I think those two have got to be seen alongside each other. And it's absolutely right that we should be accountable, and we're accountable to government on our decision making, our technical decisions. But that doesn't mean they're not our decisions. The BEIS and the FRC can both ask us to look at issues if they feel that we ought to be considering them. But we'll take input from stakeholders and make independent decisions, and it will be our decision that remains final. And of course, a third principle will be transparency. So everything we do will be in the public domain. So I think we probably have a pretty strong incentive not to bow to any political pressure or indeed pressure from any single stakeholder group.
That's good to hear. The next obvious question is, how will the relationship with the FRC, which has a history as the standard setter, is still a standard setter, how will that relationship work?
Well, this is still very much work in progress because we are in the process of drafting terms of reference for the board and also an MOU between ourselves, BEIS and the FRC. So a lot of the day-to-day operational issues will be thrashed out over time. I mean, I think if you stand back and look at it, the FRC has two functions in our lives. Firstly, they are going to be providing us with operational support. So as you said at the beginning, we're housed as a ring-fenced unit within the FRC. The Secretariat will be reporting to me through the technical director, not into the FRC. And their function will be to support the independent decision-making processes that we have as a board. But in addition, the FRC will be overseeing us, both in terms of our compliance with our due process and also in terms of our governance. So that's our second reporting line, if you like, but not on a technical basis. It will be on the basis of governance and due process. I think very importantly, though, we're going to have very clear lines of communication into the FRC, because one of the most important aspects of evidence that you can use when you're influencing accounting standards development is looking at what's going on and particularly where the problems are. And the people who have the best oversight of the issues that are coming up in the application on a day-to-day basis of IFRS are going to be the FRC, because they've got the review committee that looks at standards, and ultimately they of course have an enforcement wing. So communication with them and an understanding of the issues that they're seeing and also the issues that are coming up in the reporting lab where they're relevant is going to be hugely important to feeding into our processes and providing us with the evidence we need.
Now, there is some concern that UK IFRS will diverge from pure IFRS. Is this concern justified?
No, I don't think it is. This is not our objective in setting up the endorsement board. And the reason we've been set up is because the government believes very firmly in the importance of a single set of robust accounting standards that can be applied across jurisdictions. And it's very important for the UK economy that UK companies are reporting on the same basis as those with whom they're competing elsewhere in the world. However, it's also important that international standards are relevant and appropriate for UK stakeholders. And the process that's been set up, the endorsement process, and more importantly, the influencing that will lead up to the endorsement process is very important to ensure that UK stakeholders' views are heard and are addressed within international standards. And if you look at it, this approach is actually comparable to that used in other jurisdictions, not just in Europe, which we've been part of up to now, but also in Australia and Canada, where they have similar endorsement mechanisms. I think it's also important to remember that we actually have very little that we can do to a standard. We can endorse, we can carve out a certain portion if it meets very strict criteria, and we can extend the scope of an exemption, again, if it meets very strict criteria. We're not given a carte blanche to play with international accounting standards, and it will only be in very exceptional circumstances that we would even contemplate that. So the principle is to endorse the standards. More importantly, it's the influencing process that leads up to that which is fundamental.
Yeah, which is what I wanted to come on to next, which is that the UK's been a leader in setting accounting standards. And so will the creation of the UKEB at least maintain that or even enhance that influencing role?
Well, absolutely. I mentioned at the beginning there were 4 guiding principles. The 4th one, which I haven't mentioned up to now, is thought leadership. And that's absolutely key to everything that we do. I mean, the UK has been phenomenally successful in leading accounting standards, the development of accounting standards up to now. And we have every intention of building on that process and using the mechanisms that already exist to ensure that the UK continues to have that influence and to have the voice at the table that it should have. I think the fact that we now have our own endorsement process should actually enhance that and give us, if you like, more justification to be at the table. But in practice, I think things will carry on very much as they are. We are in the process of developing that influencing strategy at the moment, and so hopefully we'll be able to come up with something that's really powerful.
Well, that's a good optimistic note. So what happens next? First of all, to ensure that the UKEB is soundly based as an independent body.
Well, we're in the process of developing our terms of reference and in developing an MOU with ourselves, the FRC and BEIS. And those are going to be important planks in the process. The terms of reference will be approved as and when we get the statutory functions delegated to us. We're also developing a due process handbook, which will form the basis of our operations and, as I said before, will be subject to oversight by the FRC. From the 1st of January, the Secretary of State will actually take on the statutory functions. So we'll be responsible for endorsing international accounting standards if they need to be endorsed during that period. Hopefully the only one that will fall into that period will be IBOR 2. There shouldn't be anything else at that stage. And then once the board is set up, and obviously we are in the process of looking at the board recruitment at the moment, once we have a board set up, there'll be another statutory instrument that will delegate those functions to us. We're hoping that will be sometime in the first quarter of 2021. And then we'll be able to get started properly.
So that's the ultimate timetable, get going first quarter of 2021. Meanwhile, are there any milestones that one should look out for?
Well, obviously, board adverts, which I hope will be coming out in November. And I'd certainly encourage anyone who feels that they could contribute to that process to apply to the board. The next target date is obviously the end of the year, because from that point, although we won't have the statutory functions, I said they will transfer to the Secretary of State, and we will be advising the Secretary of State until we're actually given the functions ourselves. So that's the sort of process on the way. I hope at our first meeting of the board that we'll be able to approve a due process handbook, and then we'll put that out for consultation. Because clearly that's going to be an important way of ensuring that we actually perform our statutory functions in the appropriate fashion.
Well, good luck with all that, and we wish you well in the new role and with the new body. Thank you very much for taking the time to explain it to us.
Thank you for letting me talk to you about it, Jane.